Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Don't miss out on our comic book creator interviews, including our monthly Chichester chats with comic book legend DG Chichester, superhero movie brackets in our search for the worst comic book movie of all time, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/CapesandLunatics. Hope to see you there.
Avasti hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I am ye Captain Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is my skinny rich friend and first mate.
It's Mozz.
It's Mozz. Hey Mozz. My beloved child, please do not talk over the show. Thank you. I know, well, you were doing your own thing, but I'm trying to... that's the problem with a lot of people in your life. They're wonderful. They give you joy, but they also give you pain, which honestly I think is a great lead-in to tonight's episode. The Tomb. Season 1, episode... Where's my number? 4. Season 1, episode 4. Mark and Steven must find balance as supernatural threats ahead look to stop them. Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead are directors. Our writers are Alex Minahan. I'm getting the full list here. Okay. So we've got Alex Minahan, Peter Cameron, and Sabir Prezata, who are all writing credits, but there's nothing next to their names. Jeremy Slater, of course, gets our created for television by, and of course Doug Monk and Don Perlin get our created by for the Moon Knight character himself, and Danielle Iman, hardest working person in the show business. That's our staff writer.
Let's go. All
right, Maz. This is an interesting episode. Of course, it opens up just after the last episode. Now we're in that spot where we're opening up just after the last episode. It's a good place to be in with most of these shows. I have found that, like a lot of these shows, they have some pretty, in this like six to 8 episode arc. As we're getting in these short run shows, you have this moment where people sort of, you have certain beats you hit. And one of the beats you hit is the coming together of time, where things start to move at an accelerated pace. And what happens in the last episode is directly into this episode. We've seen it in WandaVision, where between the first few episodes, the time passage was a question, but by the time you get to the later half of the episodes, it's like direct 1 to 1 to 1 to 1.
Right. It's like sort of timelines converge. They're bringing you like a story from the past, and this is happening sort of here. And then when they meet up, that's when they get to the good part of the story. It's almost like, I'm going to tell you this story, but first you got to know a little bit of the background. And once everything comes together, once you get a sense of the scope and the consequences, then we can move forward and you can care about what's about to happen.
Yeah. This is why we have Luis in the Ant-Man films. In all honesty, the man should be in every single film because he gets you up to speed,
Yeah, and he could tell me that story 17 times, and it would be funnier every single time.
Oh well, I'm sure. Well, and I apologize, I'm blanking on the actor's name, but the character is amazing and the talent is amazing behind the character. So that is
Pena. It's Michael Pena, I think.
Michael Pena, it is. That is
I think
correct.
So. Right.
Yeah, my brain returned that as you said it, which my brain confirmed it.
That's called
teamwork.
teamwork.
On its own, but as soon as you said it, my brain was like, "Oh yeah, that's right."
That's called teamwork.
That's how it works. Anyway, moving right along. So what I find interesting about this, as we open up, Mark or Steven, whoever, is out. And we can see this. In fact, as the bad guys drive up, they say, he looks dead.
Uh-huh.
Which, I mean, I appreciate they say he looks dead. It's,
right.
Though it's your classic comic mistake. I mean, he looks dead,
Right.
But
like, they don't know they're living in a comic book universe, to them, things have to seem real at some point, at some point you got to say like, otherwise I'm not going to believe anything I see and I'm going to be a flat earther, Yeah.
Although I guess at some point at some point in this universe, people should start to clue in,
right.
Yeah. We've had living.
Well, I mean, like, hey, look, he didn't get dusted away, right? He's still there, so there's a chance he might be alive. Although even when you get dusted, you get brought back. So what does it all mean?
Honestly. Well, and that's an interesting question we're going to get to later in future episodes. But right now, yeah, they say look, and to be fair, I don't want to impugn the quality of their work. But they say, well, he looks dead. And then they're in the same area, so they're looking for someone else. So, well, let's look at the truck.
Well, although, I mean, I can sort of see their thinking might have been that he's not a threat, right? Let's go see if there's any other threats around before we start investigating. Just make sure our backs are covered. And then we'll investigate the dead body.
Right. And we do have Layla here. I'm always trying not to call her Marlena. This is the name of the love interest in the comics, which, we'll see what happens. But Layla, she hides in the van and all this stuff. And this is a weird moment. And this is a weird moment that I think is going to have some payoff later. Where as the truck is driving towards her, they show the open case of bullets, and it's sort of implied that she hears the rattling of the bullets, that she's being given this knowledge. Because that feeds into the whole plan she has, which is lighting off a flare, attracting their attention, then letting off another flare and throwing it into where this box of ammo is, that winds up exploding all the ammo and killing the two guys. Now, granted, all that ammo probably could have killed her and Steven too, but as luck would have it, it did not. But I do think that there is an interesting aspect of it that she can see this, that there is this extra perceptory knowledge that she is gaining in this moment lets her throw the.
You think it's that, or were they trying to show us that through these adventures with Mark, that she has become a pretty competent operator?
I mean, I suppose that's a possibility, and I guess immediately you could make that guess. But I guess when you do
in the
zoom
universe
out,
that we're in, I guess it's easy to see it in that direction as well.
Yeah, it's like, wow, that is really lucky.
Yeah,
that they had an open bottle of ammo there, and it's just that they show it. Effectively, they establish that it exists, and I get the feeling that there was the sense that she was aware of it. Because they show it, and there is this, you do up the volume of the sound of it clinking, which, again, in a quiet desert, maybe, that is exactly what you're saying, that she's listening for that sound. She hears that metal upon metal.
Right, but I mean, there's a specific sound to bullets. If you spend a lot of time at a gun range, that is a very specific sound that perhaps activates a very, very specific portion of your brain that says, like when I said Michael Pena, you're like, yep, that's it.
Yep, exactly.
Right? So maybe to them, that specific sounds like, oh, whoa, open casings. Oh, I got this,
Yeah. Well, and for what it's worth, it works. It works amazingly. And then she wakes up Steven, and they do the drive to the temple. Because they did find the temple, or at least they found the triangulation in the last episode. Whether or not all the rigmarole was necessary, that's debatable. That's what we call the fridge logic, as Alfred Hitchcock would say. But in this moment, we're going to say they're driving there. And we do see a conversation with... And it's fun to see Steven kind of in control. Because Mark is not able to just take over or to move. Steven is in charge and is going to tell Layla what he wants to tell her. And he doesn't necessarily lie to her. He says we had a deal that when our deal with Khonshu was done, he'd go away. Which is true. He did say that. But their deal with Khonshu isn't necessarily done because the mission isn't done. But at the same time, Khonshu is now imprisoned. So it's interesting how that all plays out. And then that gets us to the temple, and it's surprisingly abandoned.
Right, but look, so because it makes me think, like, why would Mark even make that bargain, right? Because he obviously doesn't mean it, or does he intend to carry on it? Right. But if he believes he is the original personality, then he's not really making a promise to anything, right? He's just making a promise to a figment, like a ghost.
Well, I suppose there's a more complex issue, and I will say this. If you watch that in the next episode, there's more information that's given. But in this moment, especially from Steve's perspective, it is a deal that was made.
Right, right.
And to be fair...
It's like making a deal with a 5-year-old,
Well, no, because the actual reality of it is...
Not that you shouldn't be honest with 5-year-olds. That's not what I'm saying, but...
No. But the idea is... So it's this idea that it's all within your own mind.
Right.
And every deal you make with yourself, you make with yourself. And at the end of the day, even though you did that thing you did not want to do, you still did it because you wanted to do it. And from Mark's perspective, the argument to be made is Mark wants to be Steven. Mark isn't really into being Mark. Mark would love to be Steven. Mark would love to be Steven and live the life of Steven and be Stephen Grant, archaeologyophile, and just live that wonderful life.
He wants Steven to win because it's still him, but
but it's the best him,
right? It's a version of him that doesn't have to carry the weight of the responsibility of his actions. Because you can say, "Oh, that wasn't me," and the world will believe you.
Exactly, which is why I think in this story, even though Mark clearly wants to be back in, Steve can keep him at bay. Although it's interesting because within this, there's still these weird, and it's what you might call a twitch. If you're, if you've ever, read about or suffer from Tourette's, it's this idea of this convulsion you can't control that just occurs, but is not necessarily the thing, because after he kisses Layla and he's about to go down, suddenly he punches himself in the face. And there's an interesting question that you ask at that moment as a watcher is, did Mark retake control? Is Steven still in charge? Who hit who in the face and why? And that's an open question that we don't ever really get resolved.
What would your best guess be? My guess is that Mark punched Steven, who's in control, and Mark had a modicum amount of control that takes a lot of energy to exert, but that was worth it. So,
yeah. And, this is sort of this thing, so here's the thing Johnny Depp once told me. Not really Johnny Depp told me, but it was when he was being interviewed. He was talking about apparently Johnny, and I'm assuming it's Johnny Depp. I could be mistaken on that, but he likes to drive across country. And just to show you how old I am, just to show you how old Johnny Depp is, he was talking about the cigarette lighter in a car. Because you don't know what that is, but they used to have a cigarette lighter in your car.
Now it's a USB port.
Yes. Now it's actually, and some it's USB port, and others it's a AC adapter. Yeah, I don't see that anyone has ever made. I haven't seen that, like an AC adapter cigarette lighter.
Yeah, with the glow orange thing.
Oh, those were beautiful. But basically, what he says, when you drive cross country, you will get the best way to keep yourself from falling asleep is to push in the cigarette lighter, take it out, and jam it into your forearm.
That'll do it.
And that'll wake you right up.
I mean, yeah.
And he says, yeah, but the thing is that once you do that once, anytime as you're driving, you start to get tired, when you reach over to the cigarette lighter, you immediately wake up.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because your body just remembers, oh, no. Okay. Yes. Okay, we're driving. We're doing just fine.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it gives you that little adrenaline push because you need it. But that's Johnny Depp for you. Him and Amanda Heard they're having an issue right now. But that is another story for another podcast. Right now, that idea of hitting yourself. But so anyway, within that, what I was getting to is when I drive cross country, I've never done Johnny Depp's trick. But I do.
I wouldn't recommend it.
As you're driving, I will slap myself. I'll just okay, I'm getting tired. Hit myself. And it's a much milder pain, but it does wake you up, and you do that. And it freaks out everyone in my car when I start doing that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yes. But it works. And it keeps you awake, and it's you
know what it does for the person sitting next to you. Oh, it wakes them right the hell up.
Yeah, well, it would be nice if everyone else could drive in my car. That's always my problem. It's like I would be happy to be that guy in the passenger seat.
I hear you.
But I'm the only guy that knows how to drive. Yeah. Anyway, I know. Well, as soon as Ben gets his driver's license. That's his job.
Right. He'll be the designated driver. We'll go fishing.
That is the goal. That's why you have kids, so that someone else can drive one day. Anyway, but the idea, but that's the idea is that I don't even know why we got into this, but in that moment,
the self,
Mark hits himself, and it's this idea that you hit yourself because you are mad at yourself, or you're trying to do something to yourself, even though you're still the one in control and you're still the self. So it's interesting this, and
it's basically like oh, you idiot.
Yeah. Well,
to yourself,
yeah. But in this moment, there's also this idea that I was wondering, like, is it now Mark in charge, and he's just pretending to be Steven?
Isn't that what it is?
Well, I mean, arguably, yes, it is. That's the thing. It's like,
right.
At the end of the day, it is this idea. And I do think that as it plays out in this, I think this is much more about the integration of Mark and Steven. And to put it simply, I think a lot of what we're doing here is integrating these two personalities. We say 2, but there may be another. Yes, new episode came out. We can watch it later. We'll talk about it later too. Came out yesterday. So in this moment, Mark and Steven are working through their stuff, and Steven goes down. Steven is still ostensibly in control, and we can tell it's Steven expressly because he still has all that nerd lore. All that nerd lore that was probably a driving aspect in Mark's life, but that he did wind up separating out from who he was as a person. Because we see this, we see this later, because first we have to fight a mummy, which was weird as heck. Honestly, I just have to say, fighting the mummy was weird because it didn't seem that the mummy was on anyone's side. Like the mummy wasn't on Harrow's side. The mummy was just mummifying all of Harrow's people. And
yeah, I mean, that's like, because that's what ancient curses do, right?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, that is exactly what the ancient curse is doing. It is saying, sir, this is ancient. This is an ancient imperial temple pyramid. Go the heck away! If you come in here, this is a mummy's only zone, sir.
Right.
I'm happy to welcome you in, but you have to be a mummy if you're going to be here.
Like, I don't know, any entity like that that's ever been woken up, their first question is, who dare disturbs my whatever, right?
Yes.
But like, they don't, like, does Amit really want to be woken up, or is this guy convinced that Amit wants to be woken up?
Well, I mean, that is the question. That is the question. That is what leads to the final reveal at the end. But getting to there is a few steps, because I do want to give all the emotional journey a bit of its weight here, because obviously we do have this whole scene, both with the avoiding the mummy, fighting the mummy. You have the whole thing where we rip the arm off the mummy, and the mummy tries to stab you with the radius. And then a nice bit with Harrow and Layla, where basically Harrow, and again, Harrow is just a jerk. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
And everything he says, is a lie. What I will say is everything Harrow says is the truth for his own purposes.
Right.
Like, he never told a lie, but you had to ask more questions. And I think that is what is the real crux of the...
Right. That's why they have to follow it. Are you going to tell us the truth? By the whole truth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Well, he doesn't tell you the whole truth. He tells you a part of the truth.
A truth. It's a truth.
He tells you a truth that helps the story.
Right.
Which, sadly, is what most people understand usually do. Unless it's very messy, in which case they, start talking out of school, and then, that's how you get convicted.
One would argue that isn't that your only prerogative?
Yeah. Well, you have... Well, because you have the Fifth Amendment that says you don't have to incriminate yourself. No, but just,
as a living being, that's your only imperative, is to propagate that's your job as a creative being that gets to mold the world, is to shape it in your way. And your moral imperative should be to do that, in a sense. I don't know. I think I'm getting off on a...
No. I think it's a fair cop. That's a fair cop. But anyway, so in this moment, Harrow makes the suggestion to Layla that, Mark was there when your dad was murdered, yada, yada, yada. Mark was one of the people, which leads to our confrontation with Mark, which is specifically Steven, because this is when they find the inner temple. They realize that this is the temple, that this is the burial place of not just any pharaoh, the Macedonian pharaoh, the great, who was Amet's avatar on Earth before Amet got told to sit they butts down by the Aeneid, Alexander the Great. So he finds Alexander's tomb, and then they realize that, this is Amet's hidden place. They realize that Amet has been both bound into a statue and put into the mummified body of Alexander, which actually means that Stephen has to tear off Alexander's jaw, reach into the gutsy parts to pull out the little statue of Amet.
Although what gut? I mean, I guess it is mummified, but what guts could possibly be left in there that are not just dried husks ready to be?
No. I mean, yeah, it's dry. It's not like you're reaching through sawdust, but
yeah.
I mean, actually, from my perspective, it's just like, oh, I fancy myself an archaeologist, and this is the single greatest archaeological find of the last 3, 4, 5 millennia. I'm just going to rip its jaw off and root around in here looking for a buried treasure.
It's icky. That's your problem right now? People are trying to...
No, it's not that it's icky. It's that it is not good archaeology, sir.
Oh.
That's the problem.
Yeah, that should have been a way bigger concern.
Yeah, that's the concern. But, obviously, fate of the world is at stake, arguably, and so we have to do what we have to do.
I feel like they made him a little too wimpy sometimes.
This actually winds up. Yeah, well, I mean, also it is still a dead body. It's a dry dead body, but it is still a dead human corpse. So I can see how you have that aspect too.
Sure.
But they reach in, they pull it out. We do get a confrontation with Layla and Stephen, and Stephen then lets Mark out to tell the story, where he basically says, you know what, I didn't want that to happen, and when I realized that the guy the mercenary leading us, was going to pull this, I tried to get everybody out of there, and they killed us. Which is to say that, it wasn't that Mark killed Layla's father. In fact, he was trying to save him. He just couldn't.
Let's revisit that story and tell it properly. He died trying to save her father, right?
Well, arguably, yeah.
The fact that he came back to life, does that take away from his sacrifice?
Yeah.
Did he know he was going to come back to him? That was the end of his life. He died. He gave his life trying to save her father.
Well, although I guess to go back to the start of this episode, he looks dead. He looked dead. He was probably going to be dead. We're assuming he was going to be dead. Yeah. We're assuming that
no one could have survived that. Oh, don't you love that line?
Exactly. But that leads us to the secondary aspect of this, which is Harrow coming back. And Harrow shooting Mark. Although I will say this is the thing about this. It's a no blood shoot. Now maybe that's because it's on Disney Plus.
There was a little bit of blood.
No, there was powder burns. There was no blood.
I thought I said there was a little bit of blood around.
No, it is all black or brown.
Right. Well, okay.
That's not what you would expect from 2 chest wounds.
Yeah, I guess.
Basically, you don't even see
so
blood.
So what could it mean if there's no blood then?
He could have been wearing a vest.
Oh.
He could have been wearing a vest, and he was knocked unconscious and fell into the water, which actually could still kill you because you can still drown.
Right.
But the fact that you were wearing a vest means maybe you're not dead yet. And I think that's the real point of that whole thing. But that gets us to the next scene, where, as it turns out, Mozz, it was all a dream.
What?
Mark is just another sedated patient in the Putnam facility for the mentally ill, in Chicago, Illinois, with the good Dr. Harrow as his, this is your classic. Actually, Batman's just in an insane asylum, and all of his villains are his doctors trying to get through to him. This poor troubled man. I know Ray will be mad I made a Batman comparison, but still, this is.
I mean, they did the same thing in Joker too, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. This is the parody that you've been waiting for, and it's one that they've done many times. I don't know if they've done it in Batman very much, but the idea of Mark Spector or Stephen Grant needing to break out of the mental institution, that's something that has been done, and it always comes back to the fact that no, he is Moon Knight. Although, as I've always said, in a fictional universe, if you need to break through, if you're fictional, you need to break through into reality. That reality is still fictional. It's like, yes, now I'm just a mental patient and it was all a dream, but it was always a dream because I'm still in the Matrix no matter what. Because no matter what a fictional character does, they're still within the structure of that fictional universe. So they can break out from one level, maybe even break the fourth wall. But even that fourth wall they're breaking is still within their own universe. So it's
almost, if you think about it, you breaking through the fourth wall forces the program to create a world beyond it. And in order for the world beyond it to exist, it has to have a framework around it, necessitating the pre-born stew of things that need to be there so that the new world can exist once eventually you break that eighth wall. So it's exactly. It's like you're causing that to happen, and that's why you can never get there.
Exactly, and that is the basic conception problem. How many times can you wake up in a dream? And as a person who has woken up at least 6 or 7 times in a single dream, I know it happens,
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I've done that because
like 6 layers deep? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. And, It's always just before you actually wake up. And
so you're not talking about like waking up and going back, but like waking up and being somewhere else and then waking up from there and being somewhere else and then going,
not like.
Oh, I was about to say, man, that sounds amazing.
Although to be fair, that is often the case in certain structures. So sometimes you can wake up and you're in a room.
Right.
And you're in that room. Now, that room isn't reality. That room is the dream's reality. And then you start worrying about things in this reality about time, which usually relates to your actual life, but are in some way also in their own dreamlike state. And then you go into the next one and the next one, and you will sometimes fall back into deeper dreams. So, like, you'll be very tired in your dream when you wake up. You'll close your eyes in the dream and then go back to the other dream, but now it's also a little different in influence, and there's lots of ways it works out. It's weird. But yeah, you can do that, like multiple layer waking up in a dream.
That sounds.
It's like weird, but if you are sleeping at the surface,
it would be so jarring. Like dreams by themselves are jarring, and when you wake up from a demon, you have like this sense of what's real and what's not. Where am I? Is jarring enough. Now imagine if after encountering that feeling, you didn't have the immediate assurance of going, oh no, okay, this is that. Oh, that was a dream, and if that calculation is broken, what would that do for how you see anything and everything?
Well, I mean, to be
break
fair,
your mind.
I will say this is that there is a difference in how your brain operates when it's in a dream state and when you're in reality. And so it's like in reality, although this isn't always the case, but it's really a case that you can only see if you know what to look for. And it's like, I am relatively confident that this is reality right now. But at the same time, I do know that, I've been in dreams that have felt this real. So it's weird. But anyway, in this moment, that is where Mark is, because it is Mark here. And we see that they've got him sedated.
Yes.
We see, we see a lot of people here. Some of whom may be dead, some of whom may not be. We see Crowley. There is the bingo caller. That's the pantomime artist who does the bronze man in the town. Which I have to say this right now, I really am impressed by that actor, that he had that skill set to be a bronze man.
Yeah.
Because that is a skill set. You think it's not a skill set to just remain motionless even for like several takes?
Yeah.
It's like, it's hard. And then to always be in that spot, it really is a skill set. It's a pantomime skill set, and then you do the movements and all that kind of stuff. But I really here he is getting to do his lines and everything in the dream space. We see Layla actually being a little bit duplicitous in this. Interestingly enough, she's eating a marshmallow, which we see earlier. Which now I wonder if that's supposed to be a callback to the Sea of Reeds, because marshmallows are from a marshmallow plant, which is a plant that grows in the marsh.
That's interesting.
From. Now, when I first started eating that, I thought it was Turkish Delight, which I thought was going to be a callback to Zemo. But no, it was not Turkish Delight. It was marshmallows.
In the jar, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the jar that, which is weird that people just keep marshmallows. I don't know if that's a thing that people do, but it's weird in this moment. But she's eating the marshmallow and she says, "This time I promise I'll share it with you," when she goes to take it, which makes you wonder if maybe in their adventures it has been more one-sided than we think, that Layla has been maybe manipulating things a bit more in her favor, maybe taking advantage of Mark's guilt and Mark's inability to be one person in a given moment. That she has been able to steal things and then put herself in a good position, but at the same time also leave Mark hanging. It's an interesting question. We don't get an answer in this episode. But we do get basically Mark trying to make a break for it from a hero, finding a sarcophagus where he finds Steven, and Steven and Mark get to meet on this astral plane, as it seems.
That's a great moment.
Yeah, and we see them walking down the hall, and it looks like an old-timey ship where like everything's rocking and the lamps are swaying. It reminded me of like if you're ever on a Pirates of the Caribbean ride, you see that with like, and we see a third sarcophagus they choose not to open.
Yeah, like it's so suspicious to me that neither of them was curious enough to want to see what was inside of it. It's almost like they both knew, yeah, you know what? Yeah, no, I'm gonna pretend I don't see that. Yeah, okay, let's pretend we don't see that.
Well, that is what the other personalities always do. That is the raison d'etre.
Yeah.
They say, we ignore all that other stuff.
Right, no, yeah.
And they get to the final door, and there is Toret. Hi.
Now I get that Steven screams like a girl, but why is Mark weirded out by this? Hasn't he seen like some crazy creatures? Why is he like? Ooh.
Well, he is seen. They've both seen Khonshu. But they've never seen. Yeah, but he's just a bone guy. And I guess maybe the argument is sort of like what you were saying about reaching into Alexander's desiccated corpse.
Right.
I mean, that's dry. That's just, it's empty. It's nothing but bone and ash.
Yeah.
It's not a living hippopotamus.
Right. I mean, like, I feel like it was a silly sight gag to stray from the character so hard, like to make them go. Woo, 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 woo. All of a sudden, we're doing like slapstick. I mean, I guess parts of it always.
Well, I mean, I guess my point would be, and I guess what their point would be, is that this is all ridiculous, Mozz.
Fair enough.
And it's a giant hippopotamus lady that just said hi. And honestly, here's my thing. The second I saw her, I immediately thought of Hippopotamus from the Wuzzles.
Oh,
I even think the actress sounds a bit like the actress who did the voice of Hippopotamus from the
what was that Pixar movie about the zoo? And Alex the zebra was in it, and there was a lion in. And
that was Zootopia.
A Zootopia, yeah. Remember the hippo lady in that?
No, that wasn't Pixar. That was, you're talking about Madagascar.
Madagascar, that's right. The hippo lady in
yes,
that.
Yes,
that's who I saw immediately.
That was the other one. I think that was it's the one DreamWorks, yes. Madagascar was DreamWorks, yes. And
but to me, like, okay, he's a big Egyptology nerd, right? His first thought would have been, "Whoa, there's your doll," instead of I don't know. It just
I mean, I think it's just shocking because, and it's funny. Well, and to be fair, he kind of said that earlier in this episode where he says, if they just came alive right now and asked me a riddle, as he's looking at the Sphinx, he said, I would mess myself. That's what he said, but I would mess myself, right. But it would be the greatest moment of my life. And here it's like, oh, he's messing himself.
Fair enough.
He's like, you're a freaking Egyptian goddess.
Right. But what?
And to be fair, here's the thing. Khonshu, you can imagine either being A, a figment of his imagination, or B, a lot of talk and no action.
Sure, but they're also sort of melding, so maybe that's like pieces of them becoming more like each other. Like, if they're so close in proximity, it's hard to be separate. You're the same person, right? So you get lazy and just react in both personalities in your head in the same way. There's one reaction that comes inside, and both of them express it the same way. You get too lazy to be able to parse them.
I think that's a lot of it. Any final thoughts?
It's interesting. Like in certain moments there, I felt like which guy was talking, because sometimes the accent is there, sometimes the accent. And I felt like there were moments where Steven talked without an accent, or maybe said a word or two that didn't sound like it was a British accent. I thought maybe I misheard, but now I'm thinking maybe it was intentional.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think both statements can be right. Where poor old Oscar Isaac is running through a lot of different iterations of his characters and comes round to a circle, but at the same time is also bound by it, and then the idea that they are merging, because that would be a very interesting end game for this, to start with this DID that eventually comes out as a merged personality, that we basically in a reversal of what we've seen in the comics, rather than being secret identities that eventually took on their own life that separated him. This is a person with these real disparate personalities, but now this is them fusing back together.
So who bears the burden of responsibility for those previous actions?
They all do. It's just one person at the end of the day,
right?
That's the thing.
He can't get around, like Layla can't forgive Steven. There is no Steven, right? Like,
well, but if Steven did nothing wrong, there's nothing to forget.
Like, that's what I'm saying. But did he or didn't? Like,
well, that's the question.
Is there a place for to be able to say he didn't do anything?
Answer in the couple of episodes. And again, we're assuming Layla did nothing.
That's just so fascinating to me. I'm like, where does the blame all of a sudden go? What does it matter? But like, isn't that a real thing? I don't know. Like,
it's all a conundrum, Mozz.
Oh, man, but that's a good bunch of questions.
Let's end this episode, Mozz. Give me your final thoughts.
Yeah, I guess that would be it. Where does the blame lie? What does it mean when you have two disparate personalities that like, one is easily forgivable? Layla is able to forgive Steven. She's perfectly fine. Steven did no wrong in her eyes. Oh, Steven's like this fresh meat, but it's still Mark and pretending to be Steven. But even then she's willing to do it. But now it's not a matter of who the identity really is, but it's how the world is willing to see you. Mm-hmm. Right. That's what decides this situation that we're talking about. So then once they merge, right, they're just one. How does she deal with that? Is she able to let that go or not? What does that mean? You know, I don't know the answers. I don't know that we can find them, but what an interesting question.
Exactly.
So that's my final thought on this episode.
Yeah. And what I would say, can you pause for 1 second?
Yeah.
Thank you. And you know what? Say my final thoughts on all of this are just that I am intrigued by where Mark is going. I hope that we're going to get something really interesting at the end, because I know we've got about 2 episodes left. There's a lot to resolve. I'm sure there'll be a big fight, probably a battle of various gods. I'm wondering if we're going to see Ammit as a big crocodile lady god. And
crocodile versus hippo? Oh, man, that's a fight people have been wanting to see for ages, I'm sure.
Well, actually, no, because it'd probably be like weird bird bone guy. Yeah. Khonshu versus. That's the thing. It's like, because Ammit is, Tuara is just like, dude, I just work here.
Yeah.
She's the goddess of women and children. It's like, dude, I'm not fighting you. Although maybe she is going to fight her, and then it's like, you know what?
Hippos are dangerous. Hippos are dangerous.
Hippos are like, I am a tank build.
Yeah.
I actually have tusks.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, yes, they do have a bite force that is really hard.
They kill more people in Africa than a lot of animals.
Well, yeah, because, people don't respect the dangerousness of a giant machine. Actually, elephant,
it looks like a hairless Care Bear.
What it is that, a lot of big herbivores kill a lot of people because people just think they're herbivores. And just because they're not going to get eaten doesn't mean they're not going to get stepped on.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, most damage that the animal kingdom gives to human isn't bite damage. It's actually just stepping on damage. It's like, you step behind a cow or a horse and that cow decides to just kick you. That was pretty much your last move, man.
Yeah.
You have to respect the giant animal that you were standing next to.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mozz. So I want to reach out to all of our friends out there in the podcast world. Let them know that they can reach out to us here on the Capes and Lunatics Network and everyone on the Capes and Lunatics Network at CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. That's CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. And they can also call us and leave a voicemail to be played on the air if they so choose at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And of course, go to Linktree, linktr.ee/CapesandLunatics, all spelled out. There they can find all of our merch, including our amazing aluminum mugs that keep your cold drinks cold and your hot drinks hot all night long. And of course, amazing t-shirts. And you can also sign up for our Patreon, where if you subscribe for $1 a month, we appreciate it. If you subscribe for $5 a month, you get full video, including the amazing movie brackets that we're doing. This week, we are recording 90s Captain America, Matt Salinger Cap versus Fat Fortastic, which will be the worst Marvel movie ever made. We're going to decide that this weekend. You can watch that live for a mere $5 a month. I'm inclined to agree with you, Tristan.
What did he say?
He's voting for Fan Four Stick.
I mean, I haven't seen that old Captain America movie, so I can't really say, but I enjoyed Fan Four Stick a little bit. You know, I mean, like I would watch it again.
It has its enjoyable moments. I've tried to defend it, but it has so much of a we ran out of money problem at the end, and that's the thing. Is like the run out of money problem. The director just decided to stop showing up to set problem. These are things you can't overcome.
Right. I mean, no doubt it was a bad movie, but it was a bad movie that I would enjoy watching again. Yeah. They didn't do it much right, but they did a couple things right, and it was an enjoyable ride the whole way. I don't know what it was, whether it was how the characters related to each other, the relationships and the chemistries were right. If everything else was wrong, but just when they were talking to each other, you were entertained or engaged somehow. Yeah. But something about it just was more enjoyable relative to the amount of hate that it gets. It always surprises me.
Well, I think that's true of most any film. Most any film is going to get more hate than it gets love, just because people like to hate. Yeah. I think that is the one rule the internet has taught us, is that no matter how good or bad anything is, more people will hate it than love it. People are like, "Oh, you eat filet mignon? That's a disgusting piece of meat." It's like
there's no fat in it at all.
Well, exactly, and it's just this idea that like, who ever really thought that deeply about a filet? It's like it's a piece of meat. I don't know. I liked it. It made my stomach not be hungry. And people will fight it. It's like, oh, you cooked that too rare. Oh, you cooked that too well. It's like, I don't know, man. I just ate a piece of meat. I was hungry. And, and not to make it all about steaks, you get people, oh, that's not how you cook eggplant.
Oh, that's not how I cook. That's not how you cook eggplant. Sure, but that's definitely how I cook eggplant.
Well, exactly. But
you
this
just sit back down and leave me alone. I would,
Well, yeah, but if everyone would leave us alone, what would happen to the field of criticism? Mozz, where would any of us?
Hopefully, you only ask the morons to leave you alone.
Yes, well, that's the idea. But anyway,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's called a toaster oven. It's been in existence for the last 50 years, 60 years.
They even come with air fryers in them now.
Oh, yeah. Cooking technology has advanced. Countertop cooking technology, it is amazing in this day and age. Yeah, we can cook all kinds of things. That's the thing, Tristan, is technology has advanced. It is far, far beyond what we once dreamed. And now you can have a whole freaking griddle in your apartment if you really want to. All electric. And it sucks the fat in, and so it doesn't trigger your smoke alarm, they say in the commercials. I don't know. I've never had a toasted steak, but we will talk about that at another time. Right now, Mozz, how can people reach out to you specifically if they want to talk to you about Moon Knight or anything else?
They can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our mothers and fathers once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. All one word. And, of course, follow me on the Twitters. I live tweet things like Naomi, which I did do this week. Well, now that Musk owns it, who knows what happens to that platform next? But I don't know. I'll be there. It might get better. You never know. It can't get worse. That's what I always say. You can find me at Charlie Hesser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the two E's in the middle. For what?
For quality. Bing.
Oh, thank you, Mozz. All right, me hearties. You have come to the end of another tumultuous voyage on our good ship. Please disembark and return to your normal lives. But come back next week as we once again sail full stream ahead.
Yeah.
Arr.